Hi everybody, welcome back to Next Up is Lisa. I decided to subscribe to Every Plate and I want to talk to you about the 3 meals that I have this week. First up is the Ancho chili meatloaves. The instructions for this were fairly simple for actually what turned out to be a delicious meal. I was instructed to preheat the oven to 450 degrees and wash and dry all my produce. That's something that I would have done anyway. Peel and finely chopped all the garlic, and I have the zucchini lengthwise, and you can see that sitting over to the side. I sliced them and put them into half moon shapes. I also peeled and diced all of my sweet potatoes, and I cut them into about half-inch pieces. In this medium bowl, I have soaked bread in with about 3 tablespoons of water. I've let it absorb, and now I have broken it up with my hands until it was kind of pasty. And I added the beef and the garlic and about 3/4 of a teaspoon of the chili powder mix that came with this. I added some salt and some pepper, and now I'm going to mix this to combine. Just so that you know, I have never made meatloaf with bread. I know that that's the common way to make it, but my mom always made it with rice, and I like that, but this turned out to be okay. So now here I'm shaping my beef mixture, and I'm going to shape it into 2 1-inch tall loaves. And I'm going to place them both on one side of the baking sheet. It's on the empty side of the baking sheet that had the zucchini on it. I'm just making sure that the zucchini now is in one layer, and I'm going to add some avocado oil, salt and pepper, and I'm going to mix all of this together so that the zucchini is seasoned all throughout. I'm going to pop these into the oven and bake them for about 15 minutes. I'm also going to cook the sweet potatoes for about 15 to 20 minutes in some salted water. Now I'm going to finely chop a chili that was included, and I'm going to put it in barbecue sauce. The instructions call for ketchup, but I was totally out. And then I'm also adding about a half a teaspoon of sugar. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to baste the meatloaves with this glaze and then pop it back into the oven for about 4 to 5 minutes. The instructions say that that the glaze should be slightly tacky, and the meatloaf should be cooked through after that 4 to 5 minutes. And then now that the sweet potatoes are cooked and drained, the next step for that will be to add 2 tablespoons of butter into the pot that I use for the potatoes. And that's what I'm doing here, because what we're going to do is actually brown that butter. And then we're going to add the cooked sweet potatoes back into that pot with a little bit of salt and pepper. I added a little bit of sugar, sorry, not sweet potatoes, but a little bit of sugar to that. And then we're going to mash them. And they were actually very, very good. I thought that is definitely something that I would do again. I have baked sweet potatoes like this, but not mashed. So that was a nice change for me. So in a few seconds, you're going to see how everything plated up. It turned out to be very good for my family. My son actually liked it, and he's not a big fan of things like this, but he said it was actually very good. And here's a picture of my meal. Next up on the menu is the Smoky BBQ pulled chicken sandwiches with potato wedges and sweet and sour pickles. As usual, I've preheated the oven to 450 degrees and washed all of my produce. I have trimmed and thinly sliced my cucumbers into rounds, and I put them in a medium bowl, and I've stirred in the vinegar and a half a teaspoon of sugar and seasoned it with a little salt, and I've set that aside. Here I am cutting my potatoes into thick wedges, and I'm going to put those on a baking sheet and drizzle with oil, salt, and pepper. Now Every Plate advertises itself as one of the more affordable subscription services, and I found that to be true. I spent $4.99 per serving, and I did a 2-serving subscription for 3 meals, and I thought that was fairly reasonable. If you're interested in trying, I suggest, this is not a sponsored video. I did this subscription with my own funds, and I'm going to continue for as long as I determine that they have meals that I'm interested in trying. So that's gone into the oven. And now I'm heating a medium pan over high heat. And I'm going to add the barbecue chicken and the rest of the chili powder and a couple of tablespoons of salt. And I just kind of stirred that until the chicken is warmed through. I'm not a fan of things like this, but this was actually fairly tasty. All right, I'm still out of ketchup, so I'm adding the last of the spice mix to barbecue sauce again and mixing everything together. I decided not to have a roll today, so I'm just eating the barbecue chicken along with the potato wedges. I'm going to top that with the barbecue sauce with the chili mixture, and I'm going to have it with a few of those pickles. And here is my plate. I thought it was fairly good and something that I would try again. Next up are easy chicken fajitas with zesty sour cream. I washed and dried all of my produce, and I've already halved, cored, and thinly sliced a bell pepper and did the same with an onion. I've also zested and quartered a lime. Here I'm heating some oil in a large pan, and I'm going to add the bell peppers, and I'm going to cook these, stirring until they are slightly softened, about 3 to 4 minutes. If you are new to my channel, I hope that you would subscribe. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. You know how much this time together means to me. Click that notification bell so you'll know whenever I post a video. So now that the peppers and onions are done, I'm going to transfer them to a plate and set aside. And while they were cooking, I did mix up the sour cream, lime zest, and half of the Southwest spice. So next up is to use that same pan, and I'm going to heat the oil and the chicken in a single layer. And I'm going to sprinkle the remaining Southwest spice and salt and pepper onto the chicken. And I'm going to stir this up and cook this chicken until it is browned and cooked through. While that is happening, I'm going to wrap the tortillas in a damp paper towel and microwave them until they're warm. And that took about 30 seconds. Here's my plate, guys. I have put everything together. I threw a couple of jalapenos on mine, and this was delicious. This week of Every Plate meal is approved in my book. I post videos at least once a week, normally on Sundays. If you're interested in checking out my Cooking Chronicles series, please hit the I button right here, and I hope to see you next week. Bye, guys.